inside and calcium will be released here. Okay, so from sarcoplasmic reticulum, right, T-tubules take the calcium to inside. Okay, and the calcium will bind with troponins, will move the tropomyosin to free the binding sites. Okay, so just know that. Now here, this is easy to understand. You see, this is a sarcomere, right? If you see a sarcomere under microscope, you will see light and dark areas shown in the top and here. See that? Light and dark areas. Why? This is simple. You know, when you see the tissue under the microscope, right? We pass the light from the bottom, right? You have seen that. Pass light from the bottom. Now, where you have more tissue, less light will pass through, right? Where you have thin layer, more light will pass, right? So, exactly same thing here. If you see, in this part you have both thick and thin filament, right? In this part, you have both. Make sense? So, less light will pass through this. Is it clear? If I pass light, less light will be blocked more here, right? So that area will look what? Darker. Clear? Here you have only thin filaments. No thick filament is here, right? So more light will pass through it. That area will look what? Light. Here you have thick filaments. So that area is lighter than this, right? But darker than this. Make sense? So that's why you see those bands. They have different names. You don't need to remember. That's not very important. If it's not white, that is important, right? So you'll see dark and light areas or bands. And when the Z discs come close to each other, shortening of sarcomere, what happens? You see, this gap is no more there because the thin filaments are moving this way, right? So this is the shortening of sarcomere. See here. So two Z discs come close to each other. Thin filaments come close to each other, so that gap is gone. So that's why you see this color changes. Okay, makes sense, right? Okay. Now we'll talk about a very important structure that is called a neuromuscular junction. Its name is telling you what is it. Neuromuscular junction is the area where a nerve talks to a muscle. Is it clear? Nerve meets a muscle. That's why it is called neuromuscular junction. So, you know neuron. Do you remember neuron?
Yes.
Okay. So, this is called axon. Remember that? These are what?
Dendrites.
Dendrites. Very good. Cell body. Okay. So, at the end of the axon, you have axon terminal. Make sense? Axon terminal, the end part of axon, right? And this is a muscle fiber. This is a muscle fiber. Is it clear? So, you see here, this is neuromuscular junction. Neuromuscular junction. Neuromuscular junction, where the axon terminal and muscle fiber meet. Neuromuscular junction.
Do they actually touch?
It's a good question. You see, I didn't touch, right? So there is always a gap there. Okay, that is called synaptic cleft. Cleft means what? Have you seen cleft lip, cleft palate? Space, right? Opening. So it is not physically attached. There is a microscopic gap. You won't see that without microscope. You need microscope to see it. Okay. Anyway, so that's the neuromuscular junction. Now, if I just only see this part, look at this. If I only take this part and see under a very powerful microscope, this is the axon terminal, and this is the muscle fiber. Okay. Now, at the axon terminal, you have what?
Testicles.
Yeah, these round membranous structures are called vesicles. You must remember vesicles, the cell I showed you. So these are called what?
Testicles.
Vesicles. Okay? At the axon terminal. Make sense? And these vesicles are filled with neurotransmitters. That is, in this case, this neurotransmitter is called ACH, acetylcholine. Okay? You have many different types of neurotransmitters, but at the neuromuscular junction, you have what? ACH. Probably some of you have heard this, right? Okay. On the postsynaptic membrane, so this is called presynaptic terminal. Axon terminal is also called presynaptic terminal. And this one, the membrane of muscle fiber, is called postsynaptic terminal. Postsynaptic membrane. This is not terminal, this is membrane. Membrane of muscle fiber. Okay. So postsynaptic membrane, presynaptic terminal. Okay. Now, this gap is called what?
Synaptic cleft.
Very good. Cleft. Synaptic cleft. Okay. Now you see what happens. Nerve transmits the signal. What kind of signal?
Action potential.
Yeah, but is that electrical or chemical or mechanical? Electrical signal transmission, right? So, very quick, right? Electrical signal always goes this way. See, from dendrite to cell body and from cell body to axon, gets out. So, you see the electrical signal goes like this. Make sense? So, quickly process the presynaptic terminal like this. Okay. So when the electrical signal process or passes through the presynaptic terminal, what happens? Something interesting happens. That ruptures the vesicles. Okay? So now the vesicles release what? ACH molecules in the cleft. Is it clear? And on the postsynaptic membrane, you have the receptors for ACH. So these are the tiny protein structures called the receptors. What kind of receptors?
Lock and key.
Lock and key, but ACH receptors. The type is ACH receptors. Okay? ACH receptors. So you now see these are ACH receptors, acetylcholine receptors, and these are acetylcholine molecules, right? So molecules will bind with the receptors, same type, right? So the ACH molecules will bind with the receptors. So it is like, you put the key into the lock. Make sense? So when you put the key into the lock, that opens the door, right? That opens the door. So that binding is essential to open the doors here. These doors are sodium channels or sodium doors. These are what? Sodium channels. Make sense? Will get opened. So sodium will get in from here to here. Remember, okay? Sodium will get into the muscle fiber. Is it clear? Influx of sodium. Okay. So now let's see. If I draw a line, and this way, if I move up, that is positive towards positive, and this way is negative. Okay? And this is called resting membrane potential, RMP. It is stable here, not moving. So now I am looking inside the muscle fiber. Okay, let me draw the muscle fiber here again. So this is the muscle fiber. Sodium channels got opened, so sodium influx. Okay, so before sodium influx, this is the resting membrane potential. Channels are closed. Okay, so I am measuring here. So no change. Resting membrane potential. Is it clear? Okay. Now sodium channels got open. Sodium influx occurs. So sodium will get in, right? So now if sodium gets in, sodium is positively charged, right? So if sodium, plenty of sodium gets in, I am measuring inside. So inside will move towards positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, right? Because positive is getting in. Sodium is getting in, right? And I am measuring inside. Looking the change inside, right? So inside will become more positive. More positive means this will move towards positive, because I am drawing that way positive, this way negative. Okay? So, make sense? Due to influx of sodium, and that is called depolarization. Is it clear? Okay. Now, after depolarization, the sodium channels will get closed. So, sodium channels are closed. Then, what will happen next? Immediately after, potassium channels will get open. And potassium always will get out. Sodium will get in, potassium gets out. Okay? So, efflux or outflux of potassium will occur immediately after that. Okay? So now you tell me, potassium is also positive. Okay? Both sodium and potassium are positive. Okay? Now potassium is getting out. So inside the muscle fiber will move which way?
Negative.
Towards negative or less positive, because positive is leaving now, right? Opposite. So it will move this way, okay, due to efflux of potassium. Is it clear? And that is called what? Repolarization. Makes sense, right? Okay. And then it will go back to resting membrane potential again. Okay? So, if I ask you, depolarization is due to what? Influx of sodium, right? Influx of sodium, right? And increased positivity inside the cell. Is it clear? Repolarization occurs due to what? Who is leaving? Potassium. Efflux, EF. Okay? Outflux, not in, out, exit. Okay? So, repolarization is due to efflux of potassium. Okay? That is repolarization. Now, the question is, why depolarization and repolarization should occur inside the muscle fiber? This is muscle fiber, right? Muscle fiber. Why that should occur? This is a good question, right? You remember we have to go back. Sarcoplasmic reticulum. Do you remember that? Okay. Sarcoplasmic tube-like structures, right? And they store what? Calcium, right? And I told you when we decide to contract the muscle, right? Signal comes and SR releases calcium into the myofibrils. Do you remember? Calcium will bind with troponins, right? We'll move the tropomyosin. But I didn't mention who sends the signal to SR to release the calcium. That is depolarization. When the muscle is depolarized, that is the signal. Make sense? That is the signal to the SR to release what? Calcium. Okay. Then calcium will bind with troponins and will give direction. Okay. So that is the first thing that should happen. Depolarization will give signal to release calcium. Then all those things will happen. Make sense? Okay. So that is the complete mechanism of muscle contraction. Now we see a clinical condition that is an autoimmune disease. Your own body, okay, destroys your body structures. That is autoimmune, right? Your immune system destroys your body structures. And what happens in a clinical condition, your immune system destroys these receptors, ACH receptors on postsynaptic memory. Downregulation, you can say that, right? So, some of the ACH receptors are destroyed. Now you tell me, if less receptors are here, binding will be less, ACH molecules will find few receptors, not many, right? So, less doors will get opened. Is it clear? Less doors will get opened. So less sodium influx will occur. Make sense? So depolarization will be what? Weak or strong? Weaker. Because less sodium will get in, right? And if depolarization is weak, less calcium will be released. The muscle contraction will be what? Weak. Make sense? And that clinical condition is called Myasthenia Gravis. Okay. Myasthenia gravis is a clinical condition in which autoimmune destruction of the postsynaptic ACH receptors, right? And that causes the muscles what? Weak, extreme fatigueness, weakness, okay, occurs due to destruction of ACH receptors. Okay? Another interesting thing in this connection is, you remember, this is the myosin head, this is the actin ball, right? Cross bridging. Then to move the head, you need what? ATP, right? Also to release the head, ATP. You remember I said at the time both way you need ATP. After death, no ATP is produced because ATP is only produced in living body, right? So after death, no ATP is produced. So what happens? Many myosin heads remain attached, cannot go back. Make sense? Because of lack of ATP. And that causes stiffness of muscles after death. Okay? So about, it starts about 4 hours after and goes up to 24 hours. So that is called, yes, rigor mortis. Okay? Stiffness of the skeletal muscles, right? Due to lack of ATP production. Okay? So myosin heads cannot get released, will stay attached. Okay? So So if I ask you draw a neuromuscular junction, or there will be as I said that probably from this chapter, all the questions will be in your quiz. Okay? So this chapter is for the quizzes.
Okay.
So this chapter won't be on the test at all?
I don't think so. So your face-to-face will be over the muscular system and integumentary system. Okay? And then you'll get a little bit time, right? But study this. Don't just stop it, then you will not be able to answer. Okay, so let me see.